We're learning the 10th shiur of Sfas Emes from Tov Reish Lamed Beis. You have to change the Goliath. Sfas Emes says there's a reason that's needed in the Goliath. You can say that in Goliath you need two items, chinos, capabilities in everything that comes from the Shemayim, so that there should be a giver, someone that gives, umekabel, and that someone who receives. When the Beis Hamikdash was up an extent, then you had both things at the same time. Today, we need the second day. He says for those people who live in Chutz La'aretz to clarify for themselves that which they received the first day, and the questionable day of which day it is. That means that it's questionable because it's not clear. When something's not clear to someone, he questions it. That's the way the Sfas Emes utilizes the idea of the second days of Golus. As far as Sfas Pesach, now the main ness in Kriyas Yamsuf was that Bnei Yisrael was zeichen by themselves for their actions, because before they had left Egypt, it was only they left because HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised the Ovis to save them, to redeem them, to take them out. And afterwards, the desire was that they should go back, and there should be a second redemption from their own belief. It wasn't something small to go back, because they obviously understood that they'll go back to be again in servitude for Paro, even temporarily, for the moments of fright that they had. And it says Lefnei Pi Achiros. Now the word they encamped in front of Pi, the mouth of Chirus. But Chirus is also the mouth of freedom, of total freedom. That point of the beginning of actual freedom. It says Moshcheni Acharecha Norutza in Shiur, which we're going to learn on Shabbos Cholamoid. It says, pull me after you, and after you I shall run. Through the ness, to the miracle of the first day of Pesach, the Bnei Yisrael realized how to do things. In other words, by themselves, that they have to be ready to run. Just show us, don't pull us like you did out of Mitzrayim. And that's why it says, V'yoisha Hashem b'yom hahu. And that day HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved them. Even though the Tzilas HaGeula was Yetzias Mitzrayim, as we have to remember continuously, Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, just by Yom HaHu, he Hoshias Yisrael. He helped Jews realize how their salvation comes about. That he helped them with them and through them. And that's why it says they were being judged at that moment, because at that moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu could afford to judge them, because they were worthy of being judged and redeemed. I'll just add that the Bostoner Rebbe explains Moshcheni Acharecha Norutza. Mashiach is a concept of how to acquire an animal. One way is to pull it and it follows you, and the other way is to strike it and it goes. And we say, Hashem Yisborach, please don't strike us. We prefer that you call to us and we will follow you. Now we go further in the Sfas Emes. We find in the Gemara that individuals are called, for individuals, the ocean, the Yam was split, even not at the time of Kriyas Yamsuf. Just as we have by Rabbi Ben Yor, that he had to cross the river, and he said, split and it split. And therefore, what's the chiddush that it happens for all of Yisrael, if it can happen for special individuals? Even though that at the time of Kriyas Yamsuf, one could argue that once it was given the ability to split, it remained for other generations. But one can add to this as well, that the main miracle was that it should be split, even for those who said, weren't we better off being buried at least in a burial place in Mitzrayim? As it says in the Medrash, there were four groups in the Yam. One said, let us commit suicide by jumping in the ocean. One said, let's go back to Egypt. One said, let's wage war. And one said, let us clearly make our intentions through voice known to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even though there were those who wanted to go back to Egypt, it became clear that Klal Yisrael has the ability to uplift even those that are not on a level of Kedusha. Those who wanted to go back to Mitzrayim, they can uplift them from Tumah to Tahara. Everybody has to know that for themselves. The Rebbe Zatzal used to say, we all have to know we can influence others. And the way to do this is by nullifying oneself to everyone, recognizing the ability, the innate ability which is within every individual. As it says, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yachishu, be silent, and that you will be saved even from silence. In other words, accepting the danger and recognizing it and being silent is also a way of recognizing, giving a person credit for what he is doing. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to them, your credit will be keeping quiet. The Rebbe Zatzal once said it by Pesach, B'damaya Chayi, which is usually interpreted to mean the Bris Milah and the Dam of the Korban Pesach, those two bloods of circumcision and Korban Pesach, still, he said, B'damaya Chayi is like the Moshin Doim, like we find by Aaron HaKoyen, by Yidoim Aaron, that Aaron was silent. Here too, you shall be silent, and that in itself, it will give you credit. Now, in one moment, they changed from their position of, we're going to die, aren't there burial places in Egypt to be buried? And right afterwards, when the Mitzrayim were killed, they said, Zeh Keli V'Anveyu. So, and Chazal tell us that a Shivcha saw, a maidservant saw at the Yam, a prophecy greater than that of Yecheskel and Buzi. For certainly, the Kriyas Yamsuf wasn't in the ocean itself, but rather it was in each and every individual. In other words, the reaction, the imprint of this taking place took place in each individual. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Hisyatzu was Yeshua Hashem. V'atem tachishun. You should hisyatzu. Now the word hisyatzu, I'm not sure if he means this, but we can translate it. We just as the walls of the ocean stood straight, you too shall still straight. If you'll stand fast in your belief, then you'll see the Yeshua Hashem. V'atem tachishun. And the Yam did not split actually until they went in. They kept quiet. They went in until their necks into water, and only then did it split. Why? To emphasize that their belief was so great that they were willing to continue because of belief. And that's the main idea of Yeshua, to nullify all of our actions, that they should all be for what Hashem wants of us. And it says, Hayom Ro'ah Vayonos. The Yam saw and it fled. That means that, what did it see? It saw that they fled. He's translating Vayonos. Hayom Ro'ah. The oceans saw what? Not that it fled. Vayonos, that Klal Yisrael entered the water. When Hashem Yisrael said, Vayisu, Yiso, tell Klal Yisrael to go, and they went. And that's Mesiras Nefesh, a total Mesiras Nefesh. And from this, the Yam took a Kavachoyma and said, if Klal Yisrael can listen to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, certainly, and they don't have that recognition because there's the Masach HaMavdil, whereas the Yam, the Sarah of the Yam, is one of the Malochim in heaven. He recognizes HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Certainly he had to split the ocean. Chazal tell us, Ro'ah Vayonos, where did he run to? V'yetzei achutza. He went outside. Where's this outside? It means that he nullified himself and he left his inner desires of what he needed, or what he wanted to be, where the Yam wanted to be. And this is, as he mentions, Sfas Emes Pesach, as I mentioned elsewhere as well. How do you get, what's the advice to do in time of trouble? Is to clarify and to accept Rotzein Hashem Yisborach with the whole heart, and hope that, and know the top is to await the salvation of Hashem, in order that the name of Hashem will become known in the world. That's why it says Hisyatzu Uruhu. Don't be firm. Don't even contemplate in your mind other thoughts. And the Yam is always the most vocal of all creation, because it's always making noise with its waves. And the Yam stood firm and didn't move, just like a stone. And therefore, it was by Klal Yisrael Tachrishun, being able to be silent. That's Kriyas Yamsuf. That we were able to accept what Hashem gives us under all instances and all times, and know that, to rely that Hashem will save us. And it could be we received all of this through the nest of Kriyas Yamsuf, from the Yamsuf that made a Kal V'chomer. And we can also make a Kal V'chomer from heaven and earth, even though they don't have choice. But since man was given choice, therefore we definitely can do more than those things which don't have choice. So here we're talking about choice, whereas the Yam was made a condition. Maybe that's why the Yam had to have a condition, to give Klal Yisrael the option of choice. If the Yam hadn't had a condition, but it was made specially at that moment a miracle, then it had nothing to do with the Yam. There's nothing to learn from the Yam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, and it split. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said there'll be a point where you will split for Klal Yisrael. And that decision by the Yam to split at that moment showed man that he can, since he always has the capability of making decisions, that he should make his decision and do the proper thing. That's why the Medrash says that the Yam said, why should I split for them? I'm more important than them. I was created on the third day of creation, they only on the sixth. That if, and the answer to the Yam is, that's true. If a person's merits, then he is the purpose of all of creation. If not, even a mosquito preceded him. And we explained that when a person nullifies his being, his spirit is above all. But when he's attached to his physical being, then we have to look at what's physical in the world. Even mosquitoes are physical. And that's why it says, Kishiyordu b'nei Yisrael, when the b'nei Yisrael went into the Yam, and they gave up their physical being, that's when the Yam split. And so too Moshe Rabbeinu said, Tachrishun, be silent, accept what's going to happen. And that's gave them a standing greater than that of the Yam, and the Yam could no longer argue, I was created before you. Chas v'sholom lahefach, if we also have the opposite, that through Kriyas Yamsuf, the ability to always do Mesiras Nefesh LaHashem Yisborach is there, because we were ready to go into Yamsuf, even seeing the water up to our necks. We were willing to go forward because of our Yaminu. Bnei Yisrael can today also accomplish Mesiras Nefesh, because, as we say in Tehillim, it's a meaning that should arouse in us that ability. Malacha Yom Kisonos. Why did you go back? Lefnei Odoin. From HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, we have to also awaken ourselves through Kriyas Yamsuf. Just like that, the next Kriyas Yamsuf remains Hatorah. as it says, Zman Cheruseinu, and Pesach is the time of our redemption, our freedom forever. So too the belief and the fear of Hashem remains available for everyone to reach and accept and take on Shri Shal Pesach. That's the main ness. The Kriyas Yamsuf is nullification of our physical being by every Jew, and that's the ultimate freedom, that he can control his spirit, and he can do that which he wants to with his mind, as opposed to that which his body is telling him he needs to do. That's why it says, "Vayosh Hashem b'yom hahu," HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved as Yisrael. He saved Yisrael, meaning as Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim. Yisrael was able, meaning they're able to become the level of Yisrael, and they themselves can elevate themselves through their actions to deserve redemption. And the shiur was on the Amunah and the Yira. That's why it says before, right before the shiur, once they realized that what they were doing was because of their own inherent belief, as opposed to following the beliefs of others, therefore they were zeichel to Kriyas Yamsuf. May we too merit seeing the miracles of Hashem in our time, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkeinu B'meir B'yameinu. Amen.